Toastmasters International. Okay, and there are 2 or 3 who are not yet members. Am I correct? Well, trust me, we can change that for you at the end of the meeting. Not a problem. Have no fear. You could become a member here today. Why would you want to be a member of Toastmasters International, and perhaps in particular this club? So another question for the members of the club. Where do you fit in? You personally fit in to the organization chart of Toastmasters International. Yes.
Right at the top.
Right at the top. Does that make sense to you? That the ordinary member is right at the top of our organization chart? It's true. Ours is the only organization in the world that I know of where the entry-level position into the organization is right at the top. Unless it's the White House. And apparently the prerequisites to have the top job in the White House have recently changed. But other than that, we put emphasis on the member. You're right at the very top of the organization chart. As you've heard from my bio, some time ago, about 8 or 9 years ago, I was the international president. So where does the international president fit into our organization chart? Right now? At the bottom. Rock bottom. It doesn't get much lower than that unless you're a past international president. Then you're really low on the totem. However, every one of us has a journey. When we join Toastmasters International, we start our journey up here, right at the top of the organization chart. And what I'd like to do in the few minutes we've got together this afternoon is talk about that journey from top to bottom, some lessons learned along the way, and then guess what? You can actually get back on top again. And that's the beauty of this organization. I want to share a few stories with you and take some lessons out of that certainly apply to Toastmasters, but apply to any walk of life. Whether you're in business, you're in government, you're in the volunteer sector, you're in your community. And the first one I will share is, shortly after I joined Toastmasters, somebody said, hey, we have speech contests coming up. You can actually practice your skills in a competitive environment, and you can go and test yourself against many others, and perhaps even win a trophy. And I thought, wow, I could give this a whirl. And so I did. I entered the club contest in Edmonton, where I joined Toastmasters many years ago. I won the club contest. And no, I wasn't the only one in the contest. So I thought, yeah, I'm on a roll. And the club president said, you can go to the area contest next. I said, well, what's an area? Nobody told me that there was something after the club. Area is a number of clubs that are grouped together. He said, you can go to the area contest. I went to the area contest. I gave the best speech of my life at that time. I was waiting for the announcement of the results. And you know, they announced third, second, first. Third was announced. It wasn't me. Second place was announced. It wasn't me. First place was announced. It wasn't me. And I thought, okay, there's something to be learned from this. Like maybe be humble once in a while and know that you have some limitations. But I went back to the club, and the club president said, well, now that you're not going further in competitive speaking, you could be the club president. And the moral of this little story is, when one door closes, another one is going to open. And he showed me that there is a leadership track that one could move on. And I decided I would take on that challenge and become the club president. And doesn't this happen in our lives? A door closes, it's slammed in your face, you don't get that promotion that you wanted, or you don't win the lottery. There's a door that closes, and another door will open for you. And if you don't see it right away, look for the door. It's there. The door is there. There is always something else that you can do when that door closes. Similar thing happened later on. I came to this district, and a number of years ago, in fact, everything I talk about is a number of years ago now, I've been around too long. But I was fortunate. I won the club level. I won the area level. I won the division level. I won the district level. I said, yeah, world champion of public speaking coming up. So I went to the regional conference in Detroit. I gave the best speech of my life at that point. Similar story, listening very carefully. Third place, not me. Second place, not me. Well, it must be me. Come. No. First place was somebody else. So once again, a door closed. And I thought, maybe this isn't for me. I'll just go back to the district and do whatever I can at the district level. The district governor then said to me, well, and I'm pretty accurate in my quote here, he said, well, since you were a loser in Detroit, it's kind of hard to take. Since you were a loser in Detroit, would you like to be an area governor, or what we call area director now? And I thought about it and said, yeah, there's a door opening here. And I walked through that door, and as they say, the rest is history. Little did I know that that would ultimately lead me to being international president of Toastmasters. But that was the start, taking a hold of a job of leadership outside of the club and giving it my best shot. So remember that. Bad stuff is going to happen in life. And you think, oh, I'm blocked. I can't go any further. What am I going to do now? Whether it's your personal or professional life, whatever it is. There's a door there. Look for the door. If it's not shown to you, look for it. Open it. Go through the door. A little while later, when I was elected to the office of what we then call Lieutenant Governor of Marketing of this district, which we now call Club Growth Director, it's the number 3 in the district hierarchy. 3IC, wouldn't we say, Ted? If there is such a term, third in command. So I just won that election, and I could see that I was on my way to eventually being the district director. And a good friend of mine, Joe Jarzenbeck, United States Air Force officer on exchange here in Canada, also a member of our district, congratulated me, and he gave me a present. He gave me a present in a bag like this, and attached to the handle of the bag was a little card that said, to the first international director from District 61, Region 6, in the next century. So this is 1995, and he was predicting I would become an international director, in other words, a board member in the 21st century. So I looked at Joe, I looked inside the bag. Yes, it was a bottle of bourbon. I'm not a bourbon drinker, but you know, we have to lower our standards once in a while. I said, thanks, but I'm not so sure about this international director thing. But he said, you can do it. He said, you can do it. You've got it in you to do this. I see you not only international director, I see you as international president 8 or 9 years later. And I thought about that. And here's a guy who had taken time to come to me and say, I believe in you, you can do it. And when somebody comes to you, Karen, Jean-Francois, and they say to you, I think you can do it. You can take that next step. You can win the speech contest. You can take on a role in Toastmasters or in your work in the public service or your community. And they say you can do it, there's a reason. I think about the world champion of public speaking in 2014, a man from Sri Lanka, Dhananjaya
Hadithirachi.
Thank you, yes, that man, Dhananjaya Hettiarachi, and his speech was brilliant because he had a refrain in the speech throughout. And that line was, I see something in you. I don't know what it is, but I see something in you. And he kept saying that. And that was his final conclusion, turning to the audience. I see something in you. Don't know what it is, but it's there. And so even if you don't see it in yourself, when somebody says, hey, you can do this, you can take it on, believe them. They wouldn't take the time out to invest it in you if they didn't see something there. The corollary of this, of course, is when somebody says, I see something in you, give it back. How many of us take the time out in our clubs or our workplaces or in our communities to say, you know, David, I think this one's for you. I see you've got the potential, and I think you've got the ambition too, to take this next step, to go to this different place, to go wherever you could go to become more successful. So pay it forward too, to stimulate and motivate other people. Sometimes people just have too much fear. They don't want to move ahead, but you can help them overcome that. Ultimately, I did become international president in 2007, 2008. Not in my wildest dreams when I walked into Toastmasters the very first time did I think I would ever get there. Hadn't even crossed my mind. Didn't even know we had one. I didn't really care either. You know, how many of you, when you came to your first club, said, I'm here, I'm a guest, want to check you folks out. By the way, I'd like to be the international president. Or perhaps, okay, if that's not going to be open, I'd like to be the world champion of public speaking, if you don't mind. Doesn't work like that, does it? No. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes teamwork, absolutely teamwork. Della pointed that out. Part of a big team within government in order to get anything done. But along with the office of international president and the trappings of office and so forth, and there are not many, let me tell you that, there's a lot of work. And there are many times when we are in positions of leadership that we are called upon, as Ted said, to do the right thing. Do the right thing, and Ted said it so eloquently, do it every time. You can't be doing the right thing most of the time, and then every once in a while you just forget this integrity thing, just go ahead and do something else. So when you're in an office like that, whether, again, in government, your community, you are observed all the time. People know what you're doing, they see what you're doing, they hear what you're doing, and they form impressions that way. So it's not all the glory and the honor and the privilege and so forth. It's doing the tough stuff. And I'll give you an example. On our board of directors, made up of directors from around the world, we had about 18 directors in those days. We had one fellow who had sacrificed integrity, and not just integrity. Certainly sacrificed respect, another one of our core values, and a few others to boot. Sexual harassment, inappropriate sexual touching within the Toastmasters environment. We had to deal with this. And so we called the board together for a disciplinary hearing. We listened to the evidence for and against, and we came to a conclusion that this man did not represent Toastmasters International anymore. And we made the tough decision to say, we are relieving you of your role as an international director and your membership in Toastmasters. You're gone. You wouldn't believe the reaction to that when word got out. The reaction was both very positive, it's about time somebody stood up for what's right, and others saying, how can you do that? We're a volunteer organization. This is a nice fellow. He's given 15, 18, 20 years of his life. Yeah, but he's not one of us anymore. And so do the right thing, even if it's going to be unpopular. And understand when you do the right thing and you get negative reaction or criticism of your decision, it's not personal. Do not take it personally. Unless you messed up personally, that's a different thing. But don't take it personally, because if it weren't me as president then, it might have been Jane or Harry or somebody else. The same would have to be done. So it's divorce yourself and your ego from the office that you've got, or the position that you've got, and make sure that way you can continue to do the right thing. One more story on this, because it still sticks with me and I can't let it go. The very last meeting of the board of directors of Toastmasters International was at our convention in Calgary in 2008. It was about my third last day of being the international president. I heard that one of our international directors was sick, dying with cancer. I gave her a call. I said, Susan, I'm very sorry to hear what's happening with you. This is really sad. Thank you for all that you've done for us. We wish you all the best. I reached out to her in her time of need. And I got my head bitten off. I got my head bitten off, not for reaching out to her, but because of all the changes that we were planning in the organization, organizational structure, regionalization, and so forth. And it hurt. It hurt very much. I processed this and eventually came to the realization, wait a minute, it wasn't about me. If it had been some other president navigating the ship of change, the same criticism would have been there. And it really riveted for me and drove home for me, don't take these things personally, because they can really get you down, and you may then end up with a fear of being a leader. We certainly don't want that. Friends, my time is up here, but I do want to just circle back to the fact that after you have gone from the top of the organization to as low as you can possibly go, you can get right back up again. And I am proud to say that I am once again the most important member of Toastmasters International. Je suis au sommet du monde. I am right there at the top of this organization and loving every minute of it. I wish you all the best on your journey through Toastmasters or your other walks of life. And remember, you, no matter what, will always remain the most important member of our organization. Mr. Toastmaster.